Few rivalries in the NFL are as much about the quarterbacks as the one between the Denver Broncos and Kansas City Chiefs, two of the four teams that make up the AFC West division in the NFL, a division in which both teams have only won since 2010, with Kansas City winning the last 5 straight. This is a rivalry that dates all the way back to the 1960s during the AFL days when the Chiefs were then known as the Dallas Texans. The franchise enjoyed much success during the 60s, winning 19 out of 20 meetings against the Broncos. However, since then, Denver has mostly had the upper hand in their head-to-head matchups. And it wasn't until the last decade when the Chiefs began to flip the script, as they've recently dominated, winning the last 11 straight meetings between the two rivals. In total, the two teams have met 122 times and just only once in the postseason. That being said, when looking at this historic rivalry between the two franchises, there are a number of games that particularly stand out.
Watching, he's seen it before. 13, 12, 11, Montana finds Willie Davis.
It's up, it's high enough, it is good! Oh, it's down. Ball is out, it is picked up by the Broncos, Roby, and he's in the end zone.
When looking back at memorable moments for both teams, no game is remembered as much for both sets of fan bases as the 1997 AFC Divisional Playoff Game at Arrowhead Stadium. This was a controversial game that consisted of sloppy plays from both sides, a total of 6 fumbles, 15 penalties for a loss of 129 yards, and a missed field goal. Basically, this encounter had all the makings and drama for an instant classic. Oh, by the way, a few Broncos players were caught cheating early in the first quarter.
Billy Martin, straight from Brooklyn, better known as Brooklyn. Never taking shorts because Brooklyn's the borough.
The 1997 Denver Broncos were a wildcard team that finished the campaign going 12-4 for second in the AFC West. They were the highest scoring offense in the league and were mainly led by their quarterback John Elway and running back Terrell Davis. The latter had a terrific season where he rushed for 1,750 yards along with 15 rushing touchdowns. Elway, on the other hand, while nearing the end of his career, had a great season of his own as he recorded 27 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, throwing for over 3,600 yards. Denver had a much improved team from the season prior and really felt this was their season. After years of missing out on Super Bowl glory during Elway's early days, this was a team that were going to go as far as Terrell Davis took them. While they won their first 6 games of the season, the team finished their last 6 going 3 for 3. For much of the season, they were leading the division. However, 2 crucial consecutive away losses at Pittsburgh and San Francisco saw them lose the division crown as they finished 12-4. Heading into the postseason, the Broncos exacted revenge from the '96 playoffs as they easily got by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the wildcard round to set up a mouth-watering tie at Arrowhead Stadium. While the Chiefs have enjoyed much success in recent years, particularly in the playoffs, there was a moment in time when the franchise struggled in the postseason. For a team that boasts one of the highest regular season winning percentages in league history, it was always puzzling and especially frustrating for Chiefs fans to see playoff failure after failure. But the '97 Chiefs were largely considered one of the greatest teams ever put together by the franchise. This was a team that was led by the league's #1 defense, coupled with a #6 ranked offense. With players like Andre Rison, Tony Gonzalez, and Derek Thomas making up the roster, the only issue the team had was in the quarterback position. Towards the end of the regular season, a quarterback controversy began to brew in Kansas City. Former sexiest athlete alive Elvis Grbac was the starter in the first 9 games and led the Chiefs to a 7-2 record, but an injury paved the way for Rich Gannon to step in for the next 6 games. During that stretch, Gannon led the team to 5 wins, keeping Kansas City in playoff contention. However, when Elvis returned from injury, head coach Marty Schottenheimer decided to name Grbac as the starting QB in the final game of the season and into the playoffs. This move was questioned by many fans and ultimately drew a lot of criticism. On top of that, another headline going to the game involved the Chiefs head coach and John Elway, as Schottenheimer, while with the Cleveland Browns, endured a couple tragic playoff exits at the hands of the Denver QB. Nonetheless, there was still a lot of optimism surrounding the team as they had home field advantage going into the playoffs. The Chiefs remained unbeaten at home all season, and for a team around that time that saw a lot of playoff exits playing away from Arrowhead, having home field advantage was going to be crucial, especially in a stadium like Arrowhead where the home fans could be absolutely deafening. With that being said, Vegas had this game set as a pick'em, meaning they didn't see neither team as a favorite going into this matchup. Guys, before we continue, do me a favor and smash that like button and turn on notifications, as it really helps promote the video across the YouTube algorithm. The game got underway in front of a home crowd of just under 77,000 roaring Chiefs fans. The Broncos received the ball first, and it was interesting to see how their number one offense would fare against the number one defense. Denver were a team that always got off to a hot start in the first quarter, outscoring their opponents by 73 points during the regular season. On top of that, Elway hadn't always played his best game in Kansas City, so getting a fast start for Denver was going to be important. Anyways, the first play of the drive saw John connect with Shannon Sharpe for an 11-yard gain. Then a couple plays later, Terrell Davis rushed the ball, however was stopped at the line by Derek Thomas. Elway would connect again with his tight end for 22 yards, however the offense would stall as Kansas City's D did a good job containing Terrell Davis. The running back even fumbled the ball on a play but ended up recovering, and the Broncos' first drive ended with a punt as they elected to forgo the field goal at Kansas City's 32. That being said, during Denver's last drive, television cameras panned to the Broncos sideline where it seemed as though trainers were removing a foreign substance off the players' jerseys. The Chiefs' defense had complained to officials that Denver's offensive line, along with Terrell Davis, had vaseline all over them, and subsequently, they were ordered to the sideline to have the substance removed from their arms and jerseys. This was a violation of NFL uniform and equipment rules, as imagine being a pass rusher trying to get by an offensive lineman with Vaseline smeared all over him. Or better yet, trying to tackle a running back would be equivalent to a group of children trying to bring down Tyreek Hill. The home team didn't fare much better, going 3 and out on their first possession. However, their punting unit received a favorable bounce, putting the away team's offense behind their 20-yard line. Denver's offense began to feed Davis, however the running back continued to struggle as the Chiefs' defense made it their sole focus to stop the Broncos' run game. During the Broncos' drive, TD only managed to gain a net of 10 yards off of 4 carries, and the offense ended up having to punt the ball back to the Chiefs. Kansas City got the ball back before the end of the first quarter, but still couldn't get much going on offense. Elvis Grbac then connected on a few short passes to Andre Rison and Kimball Andrews and managed to get into Denver territory before the punting unit came on. The Chiefs' special teams did a fantastic job as they stuck the ball right at Denver's 2-yard line. From their own 2, this was a critical drive for the Broncos as they had to push the ball away from their goal line. But going up against this Chiefs D, the Denver Broncos had struggled for the most part early in the game. The offense did end up moving the ball 9 yards after a couple runs from Howard Griffith and Terrell Davis, and from 3rd and 1, Griffith got stuffed and lost a yard, setting up a 4th and 2 situation from their own 10. On the ensuing punt that traveled to the middle of the field, a penalty for an illegal man downfield resulted in the Broncos having to punt the ball again, and Broncos punter Tom Ruin's second attempt fell way short as it was punted from the side of his foot and traveled only 25 yards, giving the home team the ball at Denver's 30. And it's at this point you knew this game was going to be a close-knit defensive affair. Points were hard to come by from both sides as the defenses continued to dominate the field. So, starting from the 30, Grbac on the first play rushed to his right for a gain of 11 yards and a first down as he was tackled by Bill Romanowski. Then later from 3rd and 7, Grbac threw one up into the stands, which resulted in the Chiefs to kick for a field goal. From 34 yards out, Pete Stoyanovich kicked the ball right in between the posts to give the Chiefs the early lead. However, a flag had been thrown for a holding call, and Stoyanovich would have to kick again from 44 yards out. And lo and behold, this time the kicker hit the upright, and the game remained scoreless midway through the second quarter. Denver would get the ball back and proceeded to push the ball downfield. After a couple Terrell Davis runs that put the offense in midfield, Elway connected with Dwayne Carcel down the right for 26 yards. Then a few plays later, Elway from 3rd and 7 while facing the blitz hit receiver Rod Smith for 17 yards, who proceeded to run all the way to the Chiefs' 4-yard line. This set up a 1-yard Terrell Davis touchdown run on a second attempt, giving Denver the lead. On the next kickoff, the home team almost had a scare as Tamark Vanover, upon catching the ball, fumbled right into the hands of a Denver player only to recover the ball seconds later. The first half concluded with both teams punting the ball and Denver heading to the tunnel with a 7-point lead. The third quarter of the game is when we'd see a change on the scoreboard. On the Chiefs' first possession, Grbac led the offense down the field after hitting Andre Rison on a 34-yard pass down the middle to get to Denver's 36. This was the start the home team was looking for, a huge play that would kickstart the offense in the second half. After a couple more completions, Kansas City would soon find themselves right at the Broncos goal line. However, from 3rd and goal, controversy would arise in what initially appeared to be a Tony Gonzalez touchdown catch. The referees waved the touchdown and ruled the tight end had gone out of bounds, and from the sidelines, you could see Schottenheimer livid at the call. Replays showed that Tony only got 1 foot in before his arm went out of bounds, but Kansas City complained that he was pushed out of bounds. The home team ended up having to settle for 3 with a Stojanovic field goal. With the score now 7-3, Denver would now looking to extend their lead. First, Elway connected on a 17-yard pass to TD, and then a couple plays later, Davis would go on a 41-yard run down the left sideline all the way to Kansas City's 11. And after a play like that, the running back had to take a breather and in-stepped backup Derek Lovell, who on the next snap fumbled the ball, giving Kansas City possession. The home team didn't make much of the turnover, and after both teams exchanged punts, Elvis Grbac from his own 35 completed a 50-yard pass to Joe Horn, setting the offense up at Denver's 12. Grbac capped the drive off, hitting Gonzalez in the end zone to give Kansas City their first lead of the game. However, this lead would be short-lived, as on the Broncos' next drive, Elway threw a short pass to Ed McCaffrey, who proceeded to run down the left for a huge gain of 43 yards. And from 3rd and goal, this set up another 1-yard touchdown run for Terrell Davis, giving the away team a 14-10 lead early in the 4th quarter. The Chiefs would have a great opportunity to score on the next possession after the offense got to Denver's 31-yard line. However, a drop from Dayton Hughes from 3rd and 6 resulted in Kansas City having to go for the field goal. The Broncos got the ball back and didn't do much on their possession besides eating up the clock. Both teams would exchange punts before Denver punted the ball back to the Chiefs. So with a little over 4 minutes left in the game, Kansas City maybe had one last chance to score a touchdown. Starting from their own 17, Grbac got the offense rolling after completing an 11-yard pass to Tony Gonzalez. Then a couple plays later, from 1st and 10, the QB suffered a 10-yard sack from Alfred Williams that set up a long 2nd and 20 at the 2-minute mark. However, a huge pass to Andre Rison for 23 yards set the offense at Denver's 28. KC would use their final timeout, so the clock was going to be on the minds of the Chiefs coaching staff. So from 1st and 10, Grbac completed a few short passes, failing to get the first down, and on 4th and 1 with about 20 seconds left, elected to go for the score to maybe catch the Broncos defense off guard. However, Denver's Hall of Fame safety Steve Atwater made a huge play as he tipped the ball to basically end the game.
Needs at least one. Goes for something long. Tip incomplete. And the Denver Broncos.
This was a devastating loss for the Chiefs franchise, and especially for Marty Schottenheimer, who took another loss against John Elway. Many Chiefs fans, even to this day, simply cannot forget the events that transpired in this playoff game that seemed to have slipped away. While hindsight is 20/20, many still argue as to who was the right quarterback to have led the team out on the field that day. This playoff exit was a tough pill to swallow, as the loss to Denver would mark the 3rd of 7 straight playoff losses for the franchise.
There's a gleam, man! There's a gleam! Let's get the gleam, all right? Let's go.